Unique stories that define our state's character. Here's Kevin Mackey with this week's Montana Moment, brought to you by Montana Chevy Dealers.
Hello everyone, I'm Laurel Staples. Thanks for joining us for our 2021 Montana Moment special. For the next half hour, we're taking a look back at some of the memorable moments of the year. Each week, Kevin Mackey shares a glimpse of what makes our state so special. In 1866 or 1867, a Civil War veteran discovered gold near Hollow Top Mountain in the tobacco roots of southwest Montana. Gold seekers flocked to the area and a town sprung up bearing the prospector's nickname. Today, the town remains much as it looked more than a century ago.
The town that would grow under Hollow Top Mountain was named after a Union soldier named Smith McComsey. At 5 feet 2 1/4 inches tall, he was small in stature, just a little guy.
His nickname was Pony.
That's how the town of Pony got its name.
Thanks for his namesake.
There are no pictures of Smith McComsey, and by 1870 he had moved on to Idaho, then Utah, but his nickname stayed.
It was a mining community in its day, and also agricultural, but legend says there was 5,000 people, but I think it's more like 2,500.
Gold mines drove Pony's economy for a good 50 years.
Most of them started fizzling out by 1920.
Today, there's little or no mining done in Pony, and its population's dwindled to 141 people. But that doesn't count the folks who live on the ranches and farms around the town.
Well, once the mines kind of shut down, agricultural community continued. People liked the town and stayed here. I think the grocery store went out in the 70s or 80s.
But there are plenty of buildings that make up Pony. It's kept its historic look.
I like to just kind of keep it a little gem of history the way it is.
A serious effort to honor Pony's history started back in 1961. That's when citizens formed the Pony Homecoming Club.
To maintain the buildings, but also to promote community spirit.
The club has as many as 100 members.
And a lot of them moved away, but they're still members and support us.
The club has community fundraisers for projects. Brian says members always come through.
We send out a newsletter 3 or 4 times a year, and we usually tell what we're going to be doing. We're coming into the historic white church here in Pony.
The club maintains the old Presbyterian church built in 1894. When it was still being used, the congregation had lowered the ceilings to save heat.
The Homecoming Club would like to restore it back to its original grandeur, which had the arch ceiling.
The club also maintains Pony's largest building, the old Pony School. Built in 1902, it's a handsome structure.
In its heyday, it had well over 100 students.
It's Pony history itself, like when Pearl Harbor was bombed on December 7th, 1941.
Next day, most of the high school boys hitchhiked to Butte and enlisted in the Army.
Student numbers would continue to dwindle through the years.
The last graduating class of the high school was 1943, and the last grade school class was 1959.
Pony kids can now go a few miles down the road to Harrison School. The Homecoming Club takes care of the old gym, too. It put a new roof on the gym and plans to repaint the interior.
It was the community center and quite an achievement for the town.
Today, both the school and gym are used for community and neighboring school events. This small town has 95 buildings listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
This is the Ewing and Mora stamp mill.
No standing structure says more about Pony's mining past than the ruins of the old stamp mill,
where they crushed ore to extract the gold.
Few living towns meld the past with the present more than Pony. Here, history is contemporary. If it could, what would the Homecoming Club say to that little prospector Pony?
Oh, man. Just thanks for helping us establish this town.
Pony McComsey probably had no idea what impact he would have here. He was long gone, but his legacy continues on in the little town named after him. Kevin Mackey, NBC Montana.
Drive through Creston in late spring or early summer and you'll see stunning fields of yellow flowers. That's canola. Creston grows a great deal of canola. It's also home to major canola research.
We're driving out to our winter canola field trials.
Clint Byerman is an assistant professor at the Northwestern Agricultural Research Center in Creston.
Creston's a great place for winter canola research because there's already already a lot of spring canola production in the area.
He hopes his research on winter varieties will fit into existing crops to enhance that market.
Growers here know that they have a market and that they can make money growing spring canola. If winter canola can work here, you're just bringing them the same crop that they can market and have a higher yield.
Trig Cook co-owns Heritage Custom Farming. He raises 700 acres of spring canola.
We've been growing canola in this valley for probably 20 plus years.
Winter canola is planted in late summer. It goes dormant in the winter. As many as 18 test varieties have been planted this season. They look great.
But the main trait we're looking for is winter hardiness and the ability of this canola to survive the winter.
If the oilseed proves robust after coming out of dormancy, it would give farmers a head start.
Flowering usually during the month of May, during cooler temperatures, and that's a benefit.
Most spring canola is planted in April. Trigg says prices for spring canola were good this year, but he says yields were down as much as 50% on dryland canola because it was so hot.
Our spring canola was flowering at the end of June and in July, and that's when we were 90 plus degrees, 100 degrees for 40 some days in a row with no rain. And when that crop canola is flowering, it can't handle a 90-degree temperature.
Trigg says spring canola is also susceptible to frost if you get a cold snap in May.
This year we had that happen.
The Creston farmer also grows hay, winter wheat, spring wheat, barley, chickpeas, and lentils. For his operation, he says one drawback to winter canola is the timing.
Because it does need to be seeded, in August, end of August, and a lot of times we aren't ready to seed yet. We're still trying to combine our previous crop.
Creston is a rich agricultural area with fertile soils, relatively good rainfall, with the potential of producing extremely high yields. But farmers can't afford to take too many risks. That's where Clint comes in.
To test different things that the growers can't test on their own without financial failure.
In the lab, a special machine is used to test for weight and moisture. Moisture is important for higher yield. It's also tested for oil content.
Because that's the ultimate end-use product.
Most consumers know it as a vegetable oil. It's also used as biodiesel fuel and for livestock feed. This is a recently harvested irrigated spring canola test plot.
Yeah, we were happy with the spring canola. It was a good year.
Trigg says on average in a good year, spring canola in the flathead will have good yields with 40 bushels an acre for dryland and 65 bushels for irrigated. He says canola benefits his traditional grain crops.
You need different rotations for disease suppression, disease management. Say a winter wheat crop planted behind a canola crop generally gives you a good boost in yield.
And Trigg says there's nothing prettier than a canola field in full bloom. I wish I had $1 for every photo a tourist took of it, he says. It's gorgeous. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana.
Coming up, a cherished part of the Alberton community. The story of this orchard goes back to the Great Depression. Plus, a Salish family honors their heritage and remembers decades of service to their country. We ask you all the time to chime in your photos and videos. We have a special section just for Montana Moments. That can be anything that means Montana to you. Weather, wildlife, history, you can share it all with us at NBCmontana.com/chime in. In the Great Depression, families and neighbors found teamwork and generosity could soften hardship. For a boy growing up in the 1930s, they were lessons passed on and nurtured. An orchard in Alberton tells the story.
The BROTHERHOOD Community Orchard grows steep on a hill overlooking Cinderella Mountain. With its southern exposure and natural spring, fruit trees do well here.
This is my father-in-law, Norman BROTHERHOOD. Norman has been living on this property since 1952, and he's the fellow who planted the orchard here about 40 years ago.
Norman is 92. He was born on a farm in Wisconsin the year the stock market crashed in 1929.
You didn't have no money, so you planted everything, and this neighbor give you this, and you give him that.
Norman's orchard never made a profit.
I never sold anything. Just give it away.
Growing up on the farm, Norm's parents always planted enough, so if there was somebody hungry, you fed them.
I don't know, I don't want to see anybody go hungry.
Norm's daughter Jeannie says her dad saw the trees as a kind of insurance.
In case we have another depression.
Today, Jeannie and her husband Bob Summerfield share ownership of the orchard with Norman.
This is a community orchard.
The orchard has 76 trees, mostly apple.
We do have several pear trees, just a few plum trees, and we have one apricot tree.
People can obtain a permit to come pick.
It's free to pick.
We're helping a disabled person that's very close to us. We're helping her make fruit leather at home.
The orchard was recently granted nonprofit status. It will help the Summerfields maintain, improve, and sustain the orchard and the surrounding property into the future. Not just for fruit.
For educational courses, as well as a place to do certain types of recreation.
Bob is working to make the orchard as productive as possible. He's pruning trees and replacing ones that have died.
And this happens to be a tree that I've grown from seed, from other trees in the orchard. Crab apples can be a very good pollinator for the other fruit trees.
Jeannie was born and raised on the place.
I was born here and my brother was born here.
Back then there was no orchard, but the story has another chapter.
When I grew up, this was a Rose Hill tourist court, and we had 14 cabins that my parents and my grandparents maintained.
Norm's parents, Julius and Emma Brovold, bought and operated the court with its motel, cabins, and 100 acres in 1952. Norm, his wife Eleanor, and brother and sister-in-law would eventually take over its operation.
Every weekend, that was cleaning and sterilizing cabins, using the mangle iron to sterilize sheets and pillowcases.
Some of the cabins were sold or torn down, but some of the buildings remain. There's the old wash house.
It was the only building up here for the cabins that had water. This is a building we call the tank, because it was the water reservoir for the town of Alberton at one time.
Jeannie says kids could fish through the door on the roof of the tank. And besides apple trees, there's this unusually formed tree called a Camperdown elm,
which is native to Scotland and other parts of Europe.
It's believed a famous landscaper planted it here in about 1910. Jason Summerfield does a lot of the mechanic work and welding at Brovold.
I think about what my grandparents or my great-grandparents would think as I'm working, and I'd like to make them proud.
It's a connection to their great-grandfather for Isabella and Jaden, a connection to the place.
I think that this place is like my safe place.
I love to see the little kids grabbing and eating, and they'll show you the apple. It's kind of cute.
Our son loves the apples, so we're gonna probably make some applesauce and maybe some apple pie.
There are multiple varieties of apples and pears at Brovold Community Orchard, but no records were ever kept as to exactly what kind, so taste tests are encouraged. Kevin Mackey, NBC Montana.
Still ahead, a commitment to service and a passion for family. Kevin Mackey has the story of these SALISH brothers. Plus, you may have taken a trip to big box stores for your holiday shopping. One Montana Moment shows us how different it was many years ago. For generations, a family in St. Ignatius has fought for and honored its country through its Native American traditions. In this Montana Moment, a brotherhood of veterans.
Dan Trahan leads his brothers and son in the flag song.
The drum is the heartbeat of the people.
Dan says this anthem is part of who they are as Native Americans. It's a tradition to honor veterans through drumming and song.
A lot of our brothers and sisters out there sacrificed their lives to make the life that we have today. Once a soldier, always a soldier.
Dan, his brothers Les, Victor, and Art, who couldn't be at the ceremony, started drumming as youngsters. Their uncle also fills a spot in the group. The brothers all served in the United States Army.
It's a brotherhood.
Dan's son Thomas Trahan is a Marine veteran.
Drumming was one of those things I did with my father so many years ago. I probably started when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old.
He learned on his father's knee. The most revered member of the group is Shirley Trahan, Thomas's grandmother and the brothers' mom.
That's my mother. She's number one. She's the head of the family.
Shirley says songs are sung to bring the people together.
It's been something that their grandfather, my father, was a part of when I was growing up. And he was a part of that in his growing up.
The family has always answered the call to military service in both wartime and peacetime. Les is the oldest of the brothers and the first of his generation to join the Army.
That's 21-year-old Les Trahan. Uncles were all in the service, all service members.
Shirley's brother was in the Korean War. Her oldest sister worked on warships in World War II.
Did a lot of welding on those ships.
I'm proud of my service. I'm proud of my brothers, my nephew, my uncles before me, my relatives before me. Proud of all these people on the wall.
There's been men from my tribe in pretty much every conflict since the late 1800s.
When you think about all the great people that went through, hoping that I made them proud, hoping that I added to the legacy.
Everybody should be thinking about protecting what we have, protecting your own family members, your friends, learning how to work together. That's one of the things the military taught me.
I'm just proud of my family service, all my uncles and my dad. These guys really paved the way for me.
Victor Stevens is with the Mission Valley Honor Guard. On Veterans Day, he will honor veterans in his community at the St. Ignatius Veterans Memorial.
It just fills me with pride when I fall out, and I just remember a lot of people that have gone through the military and are gone.
Shirley says it was hard to see her boys in harm's way. She prayed every day.
Those boys, they're my pride and joy.
In simple words, Les lays it all out.
I'm a Salish man, I'm a Salish warrior, I'm a Salish protector, I'm a protector of my people.
The boys do everything together. They will observe Veterans Day and soon after go on their annual elk hunting trip together. A brotherhood of veterans. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana.
Coming up, our last Montana Moment takes us to Anaconda, where mom and pop shops served the community and created memories for customers. Before box stores and supermarket chains, most people got their groceries at small family-owned grocery stores. Most of the mom-and-pop grocers that once served neighborhoods are gone, but they were an important part of the community. That was especially true in Anaconda.
J. Ray Haffey has written articles and books on Anaconda history. He's done extensive research on its economy, its people, and neighborhoods. He knows the history of most mom-and-pop grocery stores.
In 1945, there were nearly 40 mom-and-pop grocery stores. Today, almost all of them are gone.
Ray takes us on a tour of those old stores. All of them passed into history. We begin on Anaconda's west side.
This is 7-Eleven West Park Street. Today, you refer to 7-Eleven and you think of maybe a convenience store.
In some ways it was. Convenient, that is.
This is groceries, fresh meats.
In the late 1800s or early 1900s, there was no refrigeration in Anaconda, so families had to shop for groceries frequently, if not every day. The West Side Market opened in the early 1900s.
It was a grocery store well into the 1970s.
Here's 321 West Park.
For a long, long time was hunt houses.
We moved to 710 West 4th to find the building that used to be Kenny's Foods.
This one had an apartment complex upstairs. In some cases, the whole family lived either in the back or sometimes on top.
This empty lot is one Main Street, but it used to be Frank Lombardi's grocery store.
He had not only food, but he also had some clothing.
The store was in Ray's neighborhood. He lived across the street in the Mount Hagen homes.
A government project living facility.
He says it was a great neighborhood to grow up in.
If you wanted to have fun, there were kids available 24/7.
It was at the end of Maine where everything was happening.
This was vibrant.
Produce and other groceries were shipped by rail.
This was probably the closest store to the train station, so they got first delivery.
In the mid-50s, Lombardi's burned down. Ray remembers his mom picking up cans of soup in the liquidation sale. Before the mom and pops, there was the company store.
We're heading east. This is at the end of the 100 block off of Main. This used to be one of the company stores.
That's the Anaconda Company.
People could charge, and then when they were paid, of course, they'd have to pay their bill off.
Many immigrants opened stores.
French cuisine, or Irish, or Croatian, or Italian.
We check out a house that used to be a mom and pop called Marciel's.
On the right, where the big window is, that was the grocery store, but on the left was a root beer stand. A half a block away from Marseille's was Duncan's. When I was in high school, this was Softy's Meat Market.
We're in the heart of the East Side, what they call Goose Town. Some stores were right across the street from each other.
Bushley's at 721 East 4th Street, and what I refer to as PJ's Market at 801. The gray stucco building across the street was Hody's.
For years, Joe Casey ran Weiss's Grocery. She'd often make up fruit baskets for celebrations or mourning.
And this was a classic little mom and pop store.
Ray says when the big stores came in, more mom and pops went away.
Mom and pop stores gave credit, the big stores didn't. And a lot of times they suffered because of the credit that they gave and people didn't pay back.
He says it was the mom and pops that kept many families afloat when Anaconda workers went on strike. They were a lifeline.
The dedication and hard work of all of those people will live on in history.
Those mom and pops connected neighborhoods, made community. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana. Since we started Montana Moment, I have met dozens and dozens of proud Montanans who've opened their hearts to me to tell their stories. Every one of them remarkable for their dedication to their jobs, pastimes, and families. I thank them and so many, many more. Special thanks to my NBC Montana family who make the real moments happen, and to Montana Chevy dealers for sponsoring them. Our staff is always working for you, telling unique stories about the Treasure State, its history, and its great people. If you have any story ideas, let us know at NBCMontana.com. Until next time, be safe, stay healthy, and keep making Montana moments. If you want to watch this story again, or if you missed one of my previous stories, you can watch every Montana moment in a special segment on our website at NBCMontana.com.
Thanks for joining us for our Montana Moment special. You can catch Kevin Mackey and his Montana Moments Sundays at 10 p.m. right here on NBC Montana.